she was only the maid. Everyone in the mansion knew Emily as only the maid. She arrived before sunrise and left long after everyone slept. Her footsteps were quiet. Her voice was softer than the walls she cleaned. People rarely asked her how she felt. They only told her what to do. But Emily had a heart full of love. She worked in the home of the Carter family, one of the most respected families in the city. The house was big, beautiful, and cold, and in that house lived Michael Carter. Michael had everything people dreamed of: money, education, respect, and a future already planned. But what people didn't see was his loneliness. Emily saw it. She saw how Michael sat alone at dinner, scrolling through his phone. She saw how he stayed up late, working, chasing success that never satisfied him. She saw the sadness behind his confidence. Emily never spoke of her feelings. She believed love was not for someone like her, so she showed her love quietly. She prepared Michael's favorite meals without being asked. She left a warm jacket near him on cold mornings. She listened when he talked, really listened, when everyone else only pretended to care. One evening, Michael came home drunk and broken. A business deal had failed. His friends had abandoned him. Emily helped him to his room. She didn't judge. She didn't lecture. She simply said, "Tomorrow will be better." That night, Michael broke down in tears, for the first time in years. Days later, Michael collapsed from exhaustion. Doctors rushed in. Family members argued. But Emily stayed calm. She slept on the floor outside his hospital room. She prayed when no one else did. She refused to leave. When Michael woke up, weak and confused, he saw Emily holding his hand. And in that moment, something shifted. For the first time, Michael didn't see a maid. He saw a woman with a pure heart. Later, when he was stronger, he asked her, "Emily, why are you always here for me?" Her hands trembled as she answered, "Because love doesn't count titles. It counts souls." That answer stayed with him. But love is never simple. When rumors began, the house changed. Whispers followed Emily in the hallways. Some staff mocked her. Michael's mother warned him. "She's just the maid," they said. "She's not from our world." Emily heard those words, and they broke her. One morning she packed her bags. She left a note behind. "Thank you for seeing me, but I don't belong in your world." When Michael returned and found the empty room, panic filled his heart. He searched everywhere. When he finally found Emily at the bus station, he said the words no one expected. "I don't need a perfect woman. I need the one who loved me when I had nothing but pain." Tears fell. Fear faded. Michael chose love over pride, and that day the world learned a lesson. Never measure people by their position. Some of the richest hearts live in the humblest roles. Because sometimes, the maid you ignore is the miracle you prayed for. Michael didn't just bring Emily back. He changed everything. For the first time in his life, he stood in front of his family and told the truth. "I'm not confused. I'm not being manipulated. I'm in love." The room went silent. His mother cried. His relatives protested. The board of directors warned him. They gave him a choice: her or the family empire. That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He walked through the mansion alone, remembering every small thing Emily had done without ever asking for recognition. And in that quiet house, he realized something painful. All the wealth in the world had never given him peace, so he made a decision that shocked everyone. Michael stepped down from his position in the company. He walked away from comfort, from privilege, from approval, not for rebellion, but for love. Emily tried to stop him. "You're giving up too much," she said through tears. Michael held her hands and replied, "I'm finally choosing something real." They left the mansion together. Life outside wasn't easy. They moved into a small apartment. Money became tight. Bills came fast. Michael struggled. Emily worked 2 jobs. Some nights they argued. Some nights they cried. But for the first time, they were honest. Michael learned humility. Emily learned confidence. Months passed. One evening, Michael received an unexpected call. A former client, someone who respected his integrity, offered him a chance. Not a shortcut, not a favor, a fresh start. This time Michael built something different. A company rooted in fairness, equal pay, human dignity. Emily became more than a partner in love, she became his partner in vision. Years later, the same people who mocked them now spoke their names with respect. But the most powerful moment came quietly. Michael took Emily back to the mansion, not as a maid, but as his wife. She stood in the same hallways where she once felt invisible. Michael whispered, "You were never beneath this place. This place was beneath your worth." And that day, the final lesson was written. Love that survives rejection, sacrifice, and struggle is never a mistake. It is destiny earned. Because real love doesn't rise from comfort. It rises from courage. She was only the maid, the journey beyond. Life after the mansion was nothing like Emily had imagined. The apartment they rented was small, barely enough room for the 2 of them. The walls were plain, the floors cold, and the furniture second-hand. But it was theirs. For the first time, Emily felt the weight of choice pressing on her shoulders. This was not a fairy tale. This was reality. Michael tried to reassure her every day. "We'll make it work," he said, holding her hand. "I don't care about wealth, Emily. I care about us." But care alone didn't pay bills. Care alone didn't make the nights warmer when the heater broke. Care alone didn't stop the stomach from growling when groceries ran out. Emily, for the first time, had to be the stronger one. She worked long hours cleaning offices, cooking for small cafes, and tutoring children in the neighborhood. Each night she came home exhausted, her hands raw, but she never complained. She had learned early that love meant sacrifice. Michael tried to find work too, but without connections, his resume didn't mean much. He went from interview to interview, facing polite dismissals. The same people who once chased him for favors now looked at him like a stranger. And yet, they had each other. At night, they would sit on the balcony watching the city lights flicker, and Michael would reach for her hand. "I don't regret leaving the mansion," he whispered. "I've never been happier." Emily smiled, but inside her heart she knew this was a fragile happiness. Every day was a test, and she feared that one small mistake could shatter it all. Months passed. One evening, as Emily returned from her second job, she found Michael sitting quietly on the couch. His laptop was open, and his face was pale. "What happened?" she asked. He looked up, his eyes heavy with worry. "There's a notice from the Carter estate. They're taking me to court." Emily froze. Michael explained. After he walked away, the Carters had accused him of mismanaging company funds. The same company he had once run flawlessly, the same company he had left for love, now called him a traitor. I don't know what to do," he admitted, voice breaking. Emily didn't hesitate. She sat next to him, gripping his hands. "Then we fight. Together. Just like everything else." For the first time, Emily felt fear creeping into her chest. Not for herself, but for the man she loved. She realized that love wasn't just about warmth or comfort. Sometimes it was about facing battles bigger than yourself. They prepared for court. Michael had the law on his side, but the Carters had influence. The media caught wind of the story and whispers spread. "The rich man ruined by the maid," they said. How foolish. Emily read those headlines and felt a fire ignite within her. She wrote letters, gathered evidence, and spent nights researching laws and loopholes. She wasn't just the maid anymore. She was a fighter. She was a partner. The court day arrived. The courtroom was massive. Michael sat beside Emily, looking nervous but determined. The Carters were there, dressed in black suits, their faces full of pride and disdain. The judge called the case. Michael's lawyer presented evidence of honest management, documented transitions, and proof that Michael had resigned with no wrongdoing. Emily handed over her notes, pointing out inconsistencies in the Carters' claims. Hours passed. Tension thickened. Every heartbeat echoed in Emily's chest. Finally, the judge leaned forward. After reviewing all evidence, it is clear that Michael Carter has acted in good faith. All claims against him are dismissed. A wave of relief washed over them. Michael turned to Emily, tears forming in his eyes. "I couldn't have done this without you," he said. Emily smiled, but she felt something deeper than relief. She realized that she had grown. She had transformed. Life slowly began to stabilize. Michael found a modest job at a startup, far from the world he had left behind, but fulfilling. He worked tirelessly, determined to build an honest life. Emily continued her jobs, but her confidence had grown. She was no longer just the maid. She had earned respect, not from wealth, but from courage and wisdom. They moved into a slightly larger apartment. Together they created a small community of friends who valued honesty, hard work, and loyalty. They learned to celebrate small victories, a promotion, a repaired appliance, a surprise gift from a neighbor. Every small success was monumental because they had earned it. Years passed. One morning, Michael came home with a small box. Emily, busy cleaning the kitchen, didn't notice. He cleared his throat. "Emily, I know we've faced hardships. We've lost almost everything and gained even more in love and understanding, and I can't imagine my life without you." He knelt down. The city's morning light poured through the window, painting their small apartment in gold. "Emily Johnson," he said, "will you marry me?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. Not just tears of joy, but tears of a journey endured. The maid who once felt invisible had become the heart of a man's life, the woman who had stood beside him through storms, courtrooms, poverty, and judgment. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." The wedding was simple. No mansion, no grand halls. Just friends, laughter, and the promise of love earned, not inherited. Michael and Emily exchanged vows under the same sky they had watched from their tiny balcony years before. The city below whispered its approval, not because of wealth, but because of courage, loyalty, and true love. Years later, they built a life together. Michael's startup grew. Emily became a mentor to young women trying to rise above society's expectations. Every day they remembered the lessons they had learned. Love is not about wealth. Love is not about position. Love is about courage, sacrifice, and loyalty. And sometimes the greatest miracles come from the smallest beginnings. They never returned to the mansion, not because they hated it, but because they had learned something far greater. Happiness isn't found in walls or money. Happiness is found in love that survives storms, rejection, and the judgment of others. Final lesson: people will always underestimate you. They will tell you your dreams are impossible. They will try to convince you that love has rules. But if you are brave enough to fight, patient enough to wait, and loyal enough to believe, then love will not only find you, it will transform you. Because sometimes, the maid everyone ignores is the woman who changes a man's life forever. And sometimes, the life everyone doubts is the life that becomes a legend. She was only the maid, Stage 1, New Beginnings. The morning sun crept slowly through the curtains, painting the small apartment in gold. Emily stirred awake, careful not to wake Michael, who was still asleep on the couch. The faint hum of the city outside was a reminder. Life was moving forward, whether they were ready or not. Emily stretched, rubbing her tired eyes. She looked around their tiny home. The walls were plain, the furniture simple, the kitchen barely equipped. But it was theirs. For the first time she realized what that meant. Not luxury, not wealth, not approval. Freedom. She walked softly to the kitchen, where the small coffee maker sputtered and hissed, filling the room with warmth. Michael would wake soon, ready to face another day of uncertainty. But Emily had already planned hers. She had tutoring appointments, a cleaning job at a nearby cafe, and an evening shift at a small restaurant. Life was hard, but it was honest. Michael stirred, stretching and yawning. His hair was messy, his shirt wrinkled, but Emily saw something different now. The mansion had taught him confidence, but this small apartment had taught him humility, and Emily had taught him patience. "You're up early," Michael murmured, his voice rough with sleep. Emily smiled. "I have to. The day won't wait for us." He nodded, understanding without a word. Their love had grown silently, steadily, through shared struggles and small victories. But love alone could not shield them from reality. The first challenge came unexpectedly. Michael had applied to dozens of jobs, but every interview ended the same way: polite rejection. A former colleague would call him overqualified or too inexperienced. He was neither, but the world no longer cared about what he once had. His resume, once a golden ticket, now felt like a reminder of everything he had lost. Emily noticed the change. Michael's once bright eyes were dimming. His usual humor had faded. One evening, after another rejection, he slumped on the couch, silent. Emily sat beside him. "Talk to me," she said softly. I don't know if I'm cut out for this," Michael admitted, his hands trembling. "I had everything handed to me once. Now, I feel like a stranger." Emily reached for his hands, gripping them firmly. "You are not a stranger. You're the man I love. And love isn't about what you have. It's about what you do. And I've seen you fight, Michael. Don't give up now." He looked at her, tears forming. "How do you do it, Emily? How do you stay so strong?" She smiled sadly. "I don't stay strong. I just don't give up. Because I have something worth fighting for. And I hope you do too." That night, Michael couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, thinking about Emily, thinking about their tiny apartment, thinking about what life had become. But he also realized something else. He had never truly felt alive until now. Struggle had given life meaning. And for the first time he wanted to fight, not for money, not for approval, but for the love that had refused to leave him. Days turned into weeks. Emily's days were long. She cleaned offices until her hands were raw, tutored children until her voice cracked, and cooked for Michael, making sure he ate properly despite his own exhaustion. The city outside seemed indifferent to their struggles, but inside their apartment, small victories mattered. Michael, too, began to find his footing. He took odd jobs, helping small startups with strategy and management. The pay was meager, but he worked with integrity, something he had rarely done when he had wealth to cushion his mistakes. And Emily noticed the change. He laughed more, he argued less. He began to dream, not about power or status, but about building a life worth living. One evening, Emily returned from her tutoring session to find Michael cooking dinner. His hair was messy, flour dusted his shirt, and the kitchen was chaotic. "I made pasta," he said sheepishly. Emily laughed, the sound carrying warmth through the tiny apartment. "It smells actually good," she admitted. They ate together, sitting on the floor because their table was too small. No grand chandeliers, no silverware that gleamed like in the mansion. Just the two of them, sharing food, sharing stories, sharing hope. But happiness in their new life was fragile. One morning, a letter arrived. Michael opened it, and his face paled. Emily noticed immediately. "What is it?" she asked. It was from a creditor reminding them of unpaid bills. Their previous apartment's deposit, utilities, and medical bills had piled up. One small misstep could push them out of the apartment. Michael sank into a chair. I thought we were managing," he whispered. Emily took a deep breath. "We are. But we need to do more. Together." That day they made a plan. Emily would pick up extra tutoring jobs. Michael would work overtime, even if it meant exhaustion. They would make sacrifices, but they would not give up. Weeks turned into months. Emily's determination grew. She realized that love wasn't just about comfort. It was about action, resilience, and courage. She began mentoring younger women she met in her tutoring sessions, showing them that no one was too small to dream. Michael's spirit hardened in a new way. He faced prejudice and dismissal from the world outside, but he refused to compromise his integrity. He learned patience, humility, and the power of persistence. One day, Emily came home to find Michael sitting quietly at the window, watching the sunset. "You've changed," she said softly. Michael smiled faintly. "No, we've changed. This life, it teaches you things you never learn in luxury. I've learned to value effort, to value honesty, to value love." Emily rested her head on his shoulder. "And I've learned that even the smallest victories matter, that even when the world is against you, love can carry you." Then came the first true test of their resilience. A fire broke out in the building. The cause was unknown, but the damage was immediate. Their apartment was partially destroyed. Their few belongings were ruined. The tiny savings they had painstakingly built were gone. Emily and Michael barely escaped with their lives. They stood outside the building, coughing, covered in soot, holding each other tightly. "This is it," Michael said. "Everything we worked for, gone." Emily shook her head. "No, we are still here. We have each other. That's more than everything." They spent weeks living in a small shelter, surviving on community aid and sheer determination. Emily cooked meals in a makeshift kitchen. Michael helped organize relief for other victims. They learned to laugh again, even in the darkest moments. It was during this time that they realized the true power of love. It wasn't the grand gestures or the wealth. It was surviving together, holding on to hope, and choosing each other every single day. And slowly, things began to turn around. Michael was offered a management position at a small but growing company. The pay was modest, but it gave him dignity and purpose. Emily's tutoring network expanded. She even started a small coaching group for young women in her neighborhood, teaching them confidence, resilience, and self-worth. Life was far from easy, but it was theirs. And for the first time, Emily truly understood what love could do, not just for happiness, but for transformation.